Once you have opened Matlab, you should have a window that looks something like this. And there are several sub-windows within this one Matlab window, and in this video I'm going to explain what each sub-window contains and how to rearrange the sub-windows. The main sub-window in the center is called the command window, and this is where we will type in commands to tell Matlab what we wish it to do. At a very basic level, the command window acts as a calculator. So for example, we can type in 2 plus 2, and when we press enter, we see the answer for the calculation. Note ANS is standing for answer here. Also notice that once we've typed a command into the command window, that command shows up over in this bottom right sub-window called the command history. And this sub-window will keep track of every command we type into Matlab until we either exit out of Matlab or clear the command history. So to clear the command history, we can right-click on the command history window and select Clear Command History. And it'll ask us if we want to do this, and we will say yes. And the sub-window above the command history is our workspace. So up here, this upper right window is the workspace. So when you type a command into the command window, the result is stored in the workspace. So notice we have some value named we have something called ANS, and the value of that object or variable is 4. So if we go back over to the command window and we type in something like 3 plus 3 and press enter, here we get that ANS, the answer, is equal to 6. So notice now in the workspace the value of ANS has changed from 4 to 6. So we'll make more use of the workspace when we learn to save calculations as variables later in this tutorial. The last sub-window is the current folder over here on the left. Within this sub-window we see a list of files called M files, which stand for Matlab files. And in later tutorials we will learn how to create M files. But for now, what we want to learn is how do we tell Matlab where to look for files. So if I look up at this bar up at the top, it tells me the location of the current folder. And currently you can see it's pointing to a folder that's contained within my Dropbox folder. And this is fine if I'm working on my personal computer. However, if I'm working on a lab computer and I don't have the means of accessing my Dropbox folder, I may want to save my files onto a USB flash drive or a local folder where I can access them later. So let's see how we can change the folder location. To do this, I'm going to click on this ... button. That's going to bring up a window that has the folder tree for all folders contained on this computer. So I'm going to go up here and close this main folder, and I'm going to save stuff onto a flash drive or a USB drive. So I'm going to select that drive, and I'm going to save things in a folder called Math 315. So that's how you change the current folder. And now, if I were to create any M files, they would be saved in that folder. Alright, so to recap so far, we have learned the function of each of the sub-windows in Matlab and how to change the location of the current folder. But as you start working with Matlab, you may find that this particular layout of sub-windows is not ideal for you, or not ideal for whatever project you're working on. But Matlab makes it very easy to move or remove windows. So, for example, I can close the current folder by clicking on this X in the upper right-hand corner, and then it's gone. If I need to see it again, I can go up to Desktop and select Current Folder. Likewise, I can get rid of one of these sub-windows by going up to Desktop and say deselecting the command history. So then the command history is gone. Alright, I can also combine windows by clicking and dragging. For example, I can click on the Workspace sub-window and then drag it over to the current folders. And this creates two tabs. So I have the current folder tab and I have the workspace tab. And the last thing I can do is I can remove one of the sub-windows from this main window, so I can pop it out as its own window. This is called undocking. So I can do this by either right-clicking on the window that I want to undock and selecting undock. I can also press Control-Shift-U, or I can click on this little turned arrow up here to undock the workspace. So you can see this pops out the workspace into its own window, and then I can redock that window by clicking on the little down-turned arrow, and it will redock it to where it was before. So you can create as many configurations as you can come up with, and there's an infinite variety here. If you ever want to get back to the default layout, you can go up to Desktop, look at Desktop Layout, and under there you have Default and a couple of other options. So you can explore all the different options that they have there. Now to recap, you now know the function of each sub-window in Matlab, how to customize the layout in Matlab, and how to change the location of the current folder.